It's a Friday on the Hoffman Show. Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube too, if you like, at the Team 980. And we are pretty pumped up for a marquee matchup. Yep, they are the game of the week. The Washington Commanders, your Washington Commanders, and the Baltimore Ravens. Nance and Romo will be in the booth. The whole country will be watching. It's the feature on all of the pregame shows. And no, Anthony, all we're trying to do, it's just another week for us. We're straight ahead. We're just following the script. We're showing up at the same time at the facility every single day. We're getting our work done. And hopefully we'll come out. Wait, we don't have to play. We're just going to talk about it. I had you go in there for a second, though. I got multiple notepads. I got two pens. Pen roll. What really is at stake this weekend? That's what we always start on Fridays, right? What's at stake for the Commanders this weekend? More so than any other week, it is ultimate proof point of the plan. Now, I have actually had this conversation with multiple people today in a variety of different ways, from my old doorman, because when we moved a block over, and so sometimes I still run into the guy who works at the front desk at my old apartment building. And so I was walking with him. Antoine, if you're listening, shout out to you, because I know you do. But I was talking with Antoine today. I had this conversation with him. I had this conversation with my dad last night, on the ride home from work, because I gave him a call. I've had this conversation on when I take my DC News Now interview earlier today. So on television, now radio, and in real life, just walking around the streets or in personal phone calls, I've had some version of this discussion, which is there is nothing that can happen on Sunday that changes how I feel long-term about this team, which is a great thing. That is a positive, not a negative. That is fantastic. There is no doubt that we already have proof of concept for the Adam Peters plan. One, we know that they drafted the right quarterback. You cannot convince me otherwise, certainly not in a single game. I would have a hard time seeing, if the rest of the season were to go sideways because he self-sabotages, sure, okay. But, we already know that's not who he is. He's not going to self-sabotage. This is a guy that is going to go about his work every single day. He has shown that he can do it at the NFL level, and all he will probably do is continue to keep showing it. That doesn't mean every game is going to be perfect. He will have his ups and downs. There will be mistakes that are made, but those mistakes won't ruin him, because he is mentally strong enough to handle it. And he is smart enough to know how to read defenses, to operate this offense, all of the above. People know what Jaden Daniels is, and that's a great thing. We also know that there's a lot of other really good players that they drafted. Jer'Zhan Newton has popped more and more each and every week, getting more and more pressure, showing the hustle, the heart, the ability to cover ground and make tackles that got him drafted in the second round, and why they had a first-round grade on him. Mike Sainristil has continued to evolve into a more and more useful player each and every week, now playing the outside corner. Eventually, he'll probably move back inside. But for right now, wow, he is a guy that was drafted to play inside that is already proving to be able to play on the outside in the NFL with just a few weeks of working on it. We've seen the free agents that they brought in be impactful in Luvu and Wagner and Ertz and all these guys, and not just those guys, right? The more rotational level players, the Lamade Zacchaeuses, the Austin Ecklers, very key pieces of this team. They know what they want. They're very good at finding it. And that proof point is essential to maintaining the roster over time. We already have a proof point, a proof of concept even, I would say. A proof of concept that what Adam Peters wants to do and works, and that Dan Quinn's the right guy to push the buttons day to day. We have that proof. The question for this weekend is, how good can you be right now? How good can you be in 2024? And the answer already is probably better than a lot of people thought. You win this weekend, or you go, at the very least, go toe-to-toe with Baltimore this weekend, then we are talking about better than everybody thought because you can compete with anyone. Like, you already beat a Bengals team that did go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs and went toe-to-toe with this Ravens team this past weekend. And they went toe-to-toe with you, but you ultimately won the football game. The Ravens are, one, they're the Ravens. They don't need any further explanation. But they also have gone toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. And if it wasn't for Isaiah Likely's toe being a little too big, they would have beat the Chiefs in week 1, something that no one has done yet. Yes, they did lose a wacky one to the Raiders, but like, they're the Baltimore Ravens. We know they're a model of excellence in this league. And if you can go out and beat them, and Lamar Jackson is having an unbelievable year, and he presents some very unique challenges. And if you can conquer those challenges, you are capable of beating anyone. And if I can say that about you, then like, yes, for this silly radio show's purposes, you get to live in the prime contenders tier on our tier rankings. But more importantly, in real life, it means that if you get to the playoffs, like, you're capable of it. And again, the chances that we're still having this conversation in November, December, like, they're not 100, because that's not how football works. We've seen teams get off to 6-2 starts and then tank, and all of a sudden they're in the middle of the playoff race going the wrong directions. Hell, the Eagles started 10-1 last year. And I wouldn't have wanted to be them by December. Like, they completely fell apart. And so for this team, it does really accelerate the timeline. It might, on a realistic basis, make you think harder about whether it's a T. Higgins or a Devontae Adams. They're apparently out on Adams, but T. Higgins or whoever else at the trade deadline, at the wide receiver position, if that becomes an area where you're a little scared, you're a little thin, or you know that you can take your offense to the next level with one of those guys, or pursuing a pass rusher or a corner or whatever else you want to do, but you become a buyer, because why wouldn't you be? Like, it can change this game. If you get to 5-1, you're so well positioned from the playoff perspective. You're so well positioned from a confidence perspective. You're so well positioned from a, hey, we can compete right now perspective, that it's not about changing the process over time. Because I do think Adam Peters is going to be very patient here, but you also don't want to waste opportunities. And all of a sudden, I think if you win this weekend, you're looking at yourself in the mirror going, do we have an extra opportunity here on a rookie quarterback contract timeline in the cheapest year we're ever going to have Jayden Daniels, while we still have a ton of cap space that we can take on a salary? Is it worth taking a big cut this year? Not at the expense of anything long-term outside of some element of draft capital, but is it worth saying, for right now, we should take that swing? And I did not imagine we'd be here this fast. It's just the laws of NFL gravity tell us that is not how this works, but that's how it's gone so far. Now, that's the upside. If you lose this weekend, I think it becomes a lot easier to stay patient and stay the course. Yes, you still probably are going to be on a great path towards the playoffs, because even if you lose this weekend, frankly, even if you get blown out this weekend, if you learn the lessons from this can be a very important game for your success in the long term. But then the Carolina Panthers come, and they're barely an NFL football team. And then the Chicago Bears come, and you can definitely beat them. And there's other teams that are coming down the schedule that are much more like the teams that you've beat, and not just beat in some cases, but throttled, except for the Pittsburgh Steelers, basically, until you get into some division games later in November. Your schedule is not that bad. And so I think that if you lose, it becomes very easy to say, hey, let's see how good we can be this year with what we got. Let's stand pat. Let's not get too aggressive. You couldn't make the argument the other way. Hey, if you lose, it proves that you need another one. Let's say, Terry gets locked down because they double him and no one else can make plays. It's like, well, dang, go trade for T. Higgins tomorrow. If the Bengals were to lose this weekend and whatever. Like, you could make that argument too, and it's not a totally illogical one. But I think what is at stake this weekend ultimately is if you think that you can contend, and I'm going to say it because this is really what we're talking about here. Can you contend for a Super Bowl this year? Straight up. Can you? If you win, or you prove that you're on the level of Baltimore, then the answer is yes. And if you're like, whoa, okay, this is different, not so much, still doesn't mean that you failed. It just means you haven't gotten there yet. And that's, considering where they are in the rebuild, much more in line with where we'd hope they would be when we started this season. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, let's get into the keys of the game. Anthony and I will give one each. Well, I can also take some of your calls at 301-230-0980. Then finish Friday. Your predictions coming up at 4:30. And yes, it's happening. The Godfather himself, John Keim, joins us 5 o'clock live here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Time for our keys to the game before we get to your calls at 301-230-0980. That is the Team 980 listener line, of course. But Anthony, I'll let you start. I got all these notes. I got all these fancy statistics and things about stuff. What's your key to the game? And then I'll see what you say, and maybe I'll throw some of these statistics, but throw them at you. And then I don't know why I just felt the need to like pretend like I was peeling ink off paper and throwing it at you. And then I'll hit everybody with a couple of things that I'm thinking about.
the sidelines. I think if we can go out there and do that, I think we'll have some success. Um, I expect it to be a shootout. I think the Commanders. I don't know if they necessarily expect it to be a shootout, but we all expect it to be a high scoring game. So I think if we can just limit the opportunities that Lamar and Derrick Henry they have, I think that'll go well for us. We try to do it against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. We end up winning the time of possession. Defense didn't get any stops. Well, we got stops to an extent. We held them to a
Not
couple
a
of
lot.
field, but
Yeah.
if we can just do just enough to limit those guys and their opportunities, I think that'll position us um to be able to win this game, especially if we're capitalizing on third downs, extending the drives, and scoring. We have to score.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, hold the ball and score. That is,
I mean, it sounds simple.
it sounds simple, but it like ultimately is. I do think this game, the game flow is so important, and I feel like I say that term a lot. It's just like, can you control the game in terms of time, score, situation? Because like, how do you want to put this, right? Like if you're up and you're Washington, right? Your entire playbook is open. And you have the ability to run the football. You have the ability to play action pass, and it's all believable. Like you can run and play whenever you want, but if you're down 21 in the third quarter and you're running play action, those linebackers don't care if you run it. So they're not going to bite. The windows are not going to be as big. You're not going to get the desired effect. And so it's critically important that Washington finishes drives, and that if this thing is a shootout, that they're right there so that they can keep it being a shootout and hope that their defense is the one that figures it out first. And there are opportunities. I mean, here are the actual things that are written on this notepad. Like the Baltimore defense is 21st in EPA per play. They're 26th in EPA per play per the pass. They're only 20th in quarterback pressure percentage, and they're 26th in blitz percentage. So they are a team that is playing back a little bit, and it's not necessarily working out great for them. So there are a lot of they're 31st in the league in pass yards against. But some of that is volume. Some of that is the fact that they have been up in games and teams have been going after them. But it's also worked. And per play, this defense has not been very good. And they've given up a lot of huge chunks. And so I think the key is, can you get them in conflict? And I think the good news is, I haven't looked at their actual red zone numbers, but I did watch a lot of the tape, and sometimes I'm like, right, I watched this, I watched all the touchdowns, so it feels like this defense is bad because I watched all the touchdowns scored against it. But so you have to go back and obviously balance it out with the numbers. But one of the ways that teams have been able to score down in the red zone is they're able to put guys in conflict, and Baltimore will eat themselves alive, or has eaten themselves alive. They'll just drop guys. They will not pick up stuff fast enough. There is air for Jaden Daniels in this offense to throw into from a passing game standpoint. So I'm very intrigued to see how this thing ultimately plays out with Jaden and company on the field, because I do think there's a ton of opportunity, but there's also going to be an intensity and a physicality that Washington's been able to dictate in most games this year, Ant, that I don't know that they're going to have quite the advantage, because obviously we know one thing about the Ravens. They are going to play hard to and potentially through the whistle.
Yeah, intensity is definitely one thing, and I think you touched on it early in the week. In terms of the Ravens having the experience that haven't played in big games, been in big moments, and this is kind of familiar for most of the guys on our team, outside of Bobby Wagner, who's won a Super Bowl, and been in these moments. So it's definitely something to watch out for, but I feel as though Jaden Daniels, just the way he carries himself, the aura he has, he's not fazed by anything. And I'm excited to, see him, face some adversity. Say we do go down. Say the Ravens get the ball and they go down and score, and, we're playing from behind. I'm excited to see that. So I think this is also just a game in which we can continue to see the growth and progress of Jaden Daniels. And that's what this season's mainly been dedicated to. Before the season start, we wanted to see if this guy's our franchise quarterback, and we wanted to see him go up and down, go through the peaks and valleys of being a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, it was funny because Logan was kind of almost low key pissed about the fact that Jaden and company did not get more challenged with Cleveland. He's like, I wanted to see it. I wanted to see how they react. I want to see how it all goes down if that's the case. So I do find that like kind of funny, and I think it's a great point. Like ultimately, how do they respond? Like if they get punched in the mouth, they responded great when it's the first half against Cincinnati, and some tough moments against New York, and Arizona even goes down and scores on the first drive, and Washington bounces right back and then thrashes them. But they've never had that moment in the fourth quarter. I guess the closest is Cincinnati, and it's 3rd and 7, and Jaden delivers the throw of the year. You could argue like the throw of his life, but it's the kind of thing that you do. Like you do take that into consideration, right? Where you're just like, hey, this is something they haven't done against this caliber opponent. It doesn't mean they can't do it. It just means they haven't yet because they haven't had the opportunity. So can they ultimately finish? The other note that I'll just say real quick, it's going to be a frustrating day defensively because they are like Baltimore's just that good, and specifically Lamar is that good. They are a team that it's kind of funny to watch them operate because they have some things that you're like, okay, that sounds like good for the defense. They're kind of predictable on first down. They're just unpredictable enough that it's a problem, but they want to run the ball on first down. The problem is their run game is so varied that knowing what's about to come at you, is it going to be inside zone, outside zone, power, GT, pin pull, trap, like any run that you can think of, and some that you haven't is in their playbook. So even that alone does make things a little bit difficult. But they want to run the ball, or they'll hit you with play action on first down. So you do have to stay really alert because they will, Lamar will go for that stretch and then all of a sudden boot out. And now he's on the edge. And if you have your receivers covered, he can run. And if you don't, then he'll find him. So that is tough, but they are fairly consistently conservative. You don't have to worry about some of the quick game and stuff as much on first down. They are also that way because they're not afraid of 3rd and long. And they're really aggressive on 3rd and long. Some teams, when it's 3rd and long, they're just like, we'll punt and we'll try again next time. Screen, draw, short pass. If a guy breaks a tackle, great. But, we just don't want to take another sack. They drop Lamar back, and they run vertical routes. And if someone's open or could be open, he'll throw, and he throws with good anticipation. He'll put it out there. And if not, what he's done is he sent all those defenders with those receivers down the field, and now there's a bunch of open green grass for Lamar Jackson to run, and that is terrifying. So they are, I think this is intentionally aggressive on 3rd and long, and that creates a ton of opportunities for Lamar to extend plays, a bunch of grass to work with, and then he can do a lot of stuff with that grass, whether it's run into it or obviously hit guys off schedule. So that is worth noting. And by the way, you can get pressure on him. It doesn't mean you're going to bring him down. He's got 51 pressures, or he's taken on 51 pressures this season, Anthony. Do you know how many sacks Lamar Jackson has taken?
Probably like 4.
Very close. 5. 5 on 51 pressures. I think it's the 3rd best of regular starters in the league. He's 10%.
We saw one last week against Sam Hubbard. He had him dead to right.
Boom.
And could not get him down, and then fell to his knees after he saw Lamar throw across his body to Isaiah Likely for a touchdown. That actually would be a backbreaker.
The old quarterback double stiff arm.
Man.
He's
special, man.
So strong.
One thing I will say, though, Craig, he does have 3 fumbles on the season already. And I think I'm not going to say we should, be trying to, rely on or lean on those, but we haven't really had too many fumbles. We haven't had too many interceptions. We don't have an interception on the season. So
no, Joe Witt was very upset about that when he talked about it yesterday. He's like, I've never had a 5-game stretch in my career where we haven't had an interception. I don't know what the heck we're doing. I got to do a better job.
Yeah, but I think if we can get one of those fumbles, I think that would be huge. Just because when the Ravens have lost the game, it's primarily been due to them turning the ball over.
And it should have been last week. He fumbled a snap in overtime, and then all of a sudden they won.
Yeah.
Yikes. I think with one, the Commanders have been so close. They should have had Watson 2 or 3 times last week. Mm-hmm. Quan had one where it's just jumps the route. It should have been a pick 6 the other way, and he just drops it. So they've got to get some soon. BSJ had the one that was out of bounds that he did pick, but it was bad throw. There's no way for him to come down in bounds with it. So I think that is something that Lamar will give you some opportunities. Especially if you can get pressure up the middle. Mm-hmm. He will throw, he'll throw over it, and sometimes he'll be inaccurate. And Lamar's accuracy in general can come and go a little bit. So, he is, as potent and as explosive, and like whatever misses he has are worth it. It's like a guy who's a little bit higher strikeout, but it's like, yeah, but he hits 50 home runs a year. Like, what do you? I'll take 4 extra strikeouts if he's going to hit 50 homers. Yeah. So this is not a criticism of Lamar, other than like, no, am I going to pick him in an accuracy contest? No. Can he get hot? Yeah, I think it was 15 or 15 in the second half last week. So like, he is a little. I would say it's not that he's inaccurate. He's streaky with his accuracy. And so if you get him on a run where he's not hitting guys, can you pick one off? And then obviously, like you said, the fumbles. By the way, I did call that last week. I did call Watson being loose with the football and getting smashed. So we'll see what they can do against Lamar this weekend. All right, we'll give our picks a little later on in the show, but now it is time for yours. 301-230-0980 on a finish Friday. Commanders, Ravens, who you got next? It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. And Anthony, in the commercial break, I told you I had to fix an audio problem. I thought I fixed it. And now I see that I didn't. So, can you stall for me for 5 seconds?
I'm not gonna lie, Craig really is a problem solver. If he wasn't in this profession, I would definitely think he'd be an engineer or something.
I fixed it. I know. Well, hold on. Keep talking, because now you're too quiet.
You fix problems, Craig. That's
I
all
do.
I was saying.
That's right. Yeah, I know. My headphones are still on, Anthony. I can hear everything you're saying. Very kind of you. I just need you to kill about I don't know, 5 more seconds.
I got you. Yeah, as I was saying, if Craig wasn't in the communications field, would definitely expect him to be in the problem solver kind of field. Even though engineering is really hard.
I was gonna say problem solving I'm good at. Engineering requires math, and
yeah,
notoriously, Anthony, not my strong suit.
But I think math is one of those things where I don't know, you sort of can use your friends to help you get by, because you probably don't need them later on in life. Probably
your
don't
friends,
yeah, or your classmates to help you get by. Math.
Are you talking about like in school or in like?
If you had to, I think a lot of
I was good at math in school. Now I'm bad at it.
Oh, okay.
Also, kids, learn your stuff. Yeah, sure. I am very formulaic in certain things. So like if I can learn how to solve something, I mean, it is kind of funny because like some of the weight, like when I'm in coaching and weight training, like it's not actually math. You just memorize. People are like, how many plates go on the bar? And I'm like, give me a number between like 1 and 300. Or not 1. Give me a number between 100 and 300.
135.
Well, that's easy. That's 245s.
Okay.
I'm good at weight math. That's kind of what I'm saying.
345.
That's not between 100 and 300, but if you go three 45s on each side plus 2 10s, that'll get you to 340. No, sorry, 2 10s and 2 5s.
Yep.
That'll get you 345.
That's good math.
Yeah, see, I can do that. Put it in increments of 45s, 25s, 10s, and 5s, and I'm good. How do you solve for the blah, blah, blah of the blah, blah, blah? Sometimes my brain gets a little twisted.
Yeah, I need you to solve for X when Y is equal to M.
No. Here's the other problem I'm trying to solve right now. One, we got no one on the phone line. So if you're like, aren't you guys going to do your predictions? It's like, no, this is your turn to do your predictions. So finish Friday. Give us a call, 301-230-0980. John Keim coming up at 5 o'clock. So we'll get Cake's take on the game. Excited for that. We'll pick all the games at 5:30. We got our pick 6 at 6. You'll hear what Dan Quinn had to say today about a whole bunch of stuff. Actually, sorry, no, we won't. Pick 6 at 6 on a Friday. We're going to pick 6 players that we have in the game.
Yes,
so that's the Friday formula. The other thing that I'm trying to figure out right now, Anthony, is Tony just hit me up in our Hoffman Show Fantasy League, and he tried to trade me. He wants Devontae Adams off my team. And he's like, first he tried to offer me Raheem Mostert. I've got a couple of weird ones. I actually did get a trade that was
Raheem Mostert. Wow.
Hold on, before we get into Devontae Adams, was I an idiot for turning down this trade? I have B-Rob. Someone offered me Tyreek Hill for B-Rob last week.
Yes.
There's a part of me that thinks I was an idiot for that, but also with Miami's quarterback situation, I don't trust it. Like that.
But Craig, when you trade in fantasy, you're not thinking about the now. You're thinking about the future. So we'll be back.
Well, we don't know that he's going to be back. That's the thing.
It's a gamble that I would have been willing to take. I think
okay, but at least we admit it was a gamble, right?
Yeah. It's a little gamble, though.
B-Rob's having a pretty big year.
He's playing solid, but
and I also I've got good receivers. They're all freaking hurt.
Well, yeah, if you don't need a receiver,
that's the thing. Like my receiving core is I got Puka. Like my guy in waiting is Puka. I don't need to wait for a guy's quarterback to come back. I just need Puka to come back.
Yeah.
I have JJ. I have Devontae. I have Gabe Davis. And then starting this week due to buys and other things, I might flip some of these guys around, but Romeo Dobbs, Wan'Dale Robinson, who this is a PPR league, so he gets 1,000 targets even if they don't go anywhere.
No
And then
too.
Jamison Williams. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need receivers.
Yeah, you don't. You need some running backs.
But I've got James Conner and B-Rob.
That's only 2 people.
That is the problem. B-Rob doesn't play. I literally need a running back. I do not have another one on the
go
roster.
Get Jeremy, or somebody might have picked him up.
Jeremy. Oh, McNichols?
Yeah.
Yeah, I also thought about, I guess if B-Rob doesn't play, that's probably the smart play. The other guy I was thinking about is Tyrone Tracy, the Giants running back.
Is Devin Singletary playing? If
That's what we don't know.
Tyrone is definitely a great play because, man, that dude is special.
Yeah, I kind of almost like that one better, to be honest. He currently, he's on waivers Saturday. Yeah, we could do that temporarily. The problem is I don't have anybody that I particularly want to cut either. In one of these receivers?
Gabe Davis. He stinks.
But yeah, I mean, relatively speaking, that would be the guy.
If I had a guy to cut, either him or Romeo, but you're playing Romeo this week, so probably Gabe.
Yeah, I'm a little scared about cutting Gabe Davis, but I don't think he's ever going to be consistent. And then that's the worst guy to have in fantasies. The guy who is going to sit on your bench all year. In a couple weeks, is going to give you 25, and then you're like, well, I'm an idiot. I didn't play him. And then,
he's going to give you 3 subpar weeks. Yep.
And then you play him the next week, and you're like, why did I play this guy?
Yep.
So that's true. So I'm going to go Tyrone Tracy. But like that's the thing is like he's like, what do you want? Off of his team. Hold on, let me go to Tony's team. And it's not like Tony has a bad team. He's undefeated. He's the number 1 guy in the league right now, which also makes me not want to trade with him. But he wants.
Yeah, don't make the rich richer, man.
He's got the one running back that does intrigue me is Kenneth Walker, but he already played this week. He's got Dobbins, and then he's got A-Chain and Mostert.
Well, yeah, don't trade for Mostert. He was trying to fleece you, Craig. That's what we call it.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
But he did, in fairness, counter and be like, what do you want for him? And I was like, well, let me ask for something ridiculous. And the truth is, I don't really know how Tony's winning this league right now. I guess St. Brown's had a good year in Detroit. Anthony Richardson's currently a starting quarterback.
Wow.
Goff has been his other quarterback, but he had Nico Collins. That's how he's been winning the league. But now Nico's on IR, which is why he wants Devontae Adams.
Yeah, and he's put up the most points, too.
Yeah, I mean, Tony knows his stuff.
Yeah, he clearly does.
But
it's all good, Craig. I'm coming for that number 1 spot. Who I play this week, man?
I play him this week. That's the other thing. I don't really want to trade with you on a week that I'm playing you.
Yeah, it's probably best you don't do that.
No Devontae for you. Back of the line. All right. Since nobody wants to call and give predictions, everyone's scared to do it. Here's what we're going to do next. We had the best WNBA Finals game, if not the best NBA or WNBA Finals game that we've seen in forever last night. What a freaking night that was. I didn't know if we'd have a chance to talk about it on this Football Friday, but I really want to. And so we're going to talk about that tremendous basketball game next. Then John Keim coming up at 5 o'clock.
Here's
Back to the football coming up at 5 o'clock. But right now, let's talk some hoops, shall we? It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Yeah, John Keim, 5 o'clock. But last night in New York at Barclays Center was one of the great playoff games you will see in any sport ever. Just an absolutely epic comeback by the Minnesota Lynx, who trailed by as many as 18, did not lead in regulation until less than 10 seconds to go, and ultimately beat the New York Liberty on the road in Game 1 of the WNBA Finals in overtime. Wow, what a bizarre, Anthony, frankly, game. And it's bizarre because of, to me, it's like one of the bizarre things there is about the key play and like who's involved in it and how it went down. The key play comes late in the game where Courtney Williams, who had like I said multiple times during that game, man, Courtney Williams is killing the Lynx right now. Their point guard who's just can be a little streaky, got on kind of a bad streak, but was still taking a lot of shots. I think she was putting a lot of pressure on herself to make plays, and she's missing all these shots. And then she starts to hit a couple and stays aggressive. And then all of a sudden, she's hot coming down the stretch, helping close the gap, and up 3 with, 8 seconds to go or something like that?
Yeah. It was 8 seconds ago, and then it was 5 seconds when she hit the shot.
Yeah, so 5 seconds to go. Offensive rebound, Minnesota. Kick out. Courtney Williams takes a 3, hits it, fouled by Sabrina Ionescu, who had been pretty fantastic the entire night, despite a bad shooting night. She still found ways to be really impactful. I mean, she had 4 steals in the game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists to go with ultimately 19 points. Like she got to, she just kept firing away, hit a couple big shots, 8 for 26 from the field, but it felt like every shot she hit was major. And so in a game where Ionescu had made some big plays, even if she hadn't been great, she makes the worst play of the game against a player who hadn't been that great, but then all of a sudden hit all the big shots. It was just wild how that it came down to that. I felt like a genius for part of this because Jonquel Jones looked fantastic. 24 points, 10 boards for New York. But there's no question, Anthony, last night, the best player on the floor was Nafisa Collier. The runner-up to Asia Wilson for MVP this year has 21 points, 6 blocks, 8 boards, 3 steals, 2 assists. That has never happened, that combo of stuff. Or better in WNBA history. 20-plus points, 6-plus blocks, 3-plus steals, 8-plus rebounds. And it includes, by the way, a block on Jones in overtime that is regulation. That was the best finals block since LeBron on Iguodala. Like, yeah. She is, how would you describe, like, she gets pinned. It's an offensive foul on Jonquel Jones is what it was. She's got Fee's arms pinned. So, like, Fee looks like if you're a toddler, maybe not your toddler because they'd be too small. If you've got a kid who's like 12 and you were to go back to back and then lock arms and then lift them up, imagine that if you did not see this play. Now imagine that you or your 12-year-old wiggles an arm free and blocks your shot. That's what happened on that play because Jonquel Jones has 4 or 5 inches on Nafisa Collier, and she still found a way to get free, time it up, and get that block. She hits key shots. She just finds ways. And I think the thing that's most impressive, Anthony, too, is the mentality of the Minnesota Lynx. Just a bunch of dogs that keep on fighting, keep on grinding, do not let stuff bother them. They got absolutely screwed by a call late in this game. There's a jump ball that ultimately is the thing that sends this thing to overtime. A jump ball call because the refs didn't see that a ball goes out of bounds off Breanna Stewart's foot. They thought it was simultaneous contact out of bounds. Jump ball. Stewart ultimately gets fouled after some ball gets knocked out of bounds again and inbounds, and she hits 1 of 2 free throws. She could have won the game in regulation free throws. She didn't. But it should have been Minnesota ball, and Minnesota just kept on defending, and then in overtime, they do what they need to do to win, and they stole one. They straight up stole one in a series that now they have home court advantage in. All they got to do is win their home games, and they win a WNBA championship, and it would be like the 7th time in the 28-year history or whatever it is of the WNBA that the New York Liberty would lose in the finals.
That game, man, the electricity that we saw, just around the Barclays.
Great crowd.
Man, they put on for sure. And I think this game one capsulates pretty much what we've all been saying. Like, women play good basketball, and it needs to be, supported more. And I think there were a lot of people that are watching yesterday's game that were like, yo, this is crazy. Yeah, you've been missing it for the past 20-some years. Like, they've been this good.
By the way, did you see the open, like the broadcast open that Don Staley voiced? I saw it on Instagram. I assume it was the broadcast open.
I didn't get to see it. I
Oh,
walked
the
in my house
theme
at, like,
was "We've been here,"
oh, wow.
and Don voiced
That's
it,
tough.
and it was fantastic.
That's tough.
But the theme of like, yeah, we've been here. We've been doing this since before the spotlight was bright, and that's 100% true. But like, I'm telling you, if this series is like, there's so much good ball that's going to be played,
Yep.
and it's tough and it's tenacious, but they're still shot making. I mean, Kayla McBride is 4 of 7 from 3 this game, and she just kept ripping the net. Like, they needed a key shot to just stay attached enough. Bam, Kayla McBride finds herself open. I cannot believe Courtney Williams was 9 of 18. Like, I cannot believe in this game she wound up getting to 50% because it feels like she missed so many shots and was out of control. And yet she finds a way to stake with it, come back, and she's just that dog mentality. I mean, Alana Smith, nasty ankle turn in this game, but does a good job. 9 points, 9 boards, 4 assists. Like, Minnesota plays fantastic team basketball. By the way, Natisha Heidemann coming off the bench, she's a plus 10 in 13 minutes.
Yeah, they end up going small.
Huge. Yeah.
That's how they came back. They went small with her. They inserted her, and they were able to, get up and down the floor. Like, she was pushing the pace. They were spacing, and it was a lot of team rebounding because Jonquil, again, is a problem. New York's bigger than them, but the Lynx, they fall on the boards, even undersized with Heidemann in there alongside Courtney Williams. They were just able to be scrappy, and that's what they are. There's some scrappy little dogs.
They are. They'll yap at you. They'll snap at your ankles. But and then they got a big dog, by the way. Because, like, Fee, we talked yesterday on the show at the very end when we picked this series and did our preview. Like, Stewie versus the Lynx this year. The Lynx won the season series, but Stewie was outrageous. She had like 17 points, 17 rebounds in one game, 38 and 18 in another. She was unbelievable. And Nafisa Collier, the defensive player of the year in the league, just went, bleep that. Like, it's not happening on my watch. And by the way, these two are great friends, have known each other for a long time, both UConn alums. There's a league that's going to be happening during the W offseason called Unrivaled that like 30 of the best players in the world are going to be playing either 3-on-3 or 1-on-1. But it's like there's a lot more money involved in it. So a way that players can stay here and not go overseas. And Stewie and Fee are the ones actually behind it. So they're putting that on the side, and they are just getting after it. And the defense that Fee played on Stewie, she goes 6 of 21 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3, 18 points, 9 rebounds. Like, she still got 18 points because she's Stewie, and like she's gonna get something. But it's gonna be really hard for them to win if she's going 6 of 21. And that was a direct result of good team defense, but primarily good one-on-one on-ball defense by Collier, who's just like cannot. I said this on the WNBA show that we do on YouTube, but like I don't understand how she does it. Not because like, hey, she's unheralded, she was a 6th pick in the draft back a couple years ago, whatever. She's a mom of a toddler. Any of you parents out there listening right now, if you have a toddler, do you have by 7 o'clock at night? Do you have the energy to do anything? The answer is no. I know that is true because I have a 3-year-old niece, and there ain't no way that by 8 o'clock at night, either of her parents would be ready to do anything equivalent to playing a WNBA basketball game. Okay, their days might be slightly different. But do you realize this woman is the mother of a toddler? One, the fact that she gave birth like 2 years ago and is back to being one of the best players in the world. Moms are superheroes. That's crazy. 2, she is the parent of a toddler and has the energy to go out and play the world's best defense on Brianna Stewart. That's crazy to me. That blows my mind.
And she's only 6'1" doing it. Like, she's playing bigger than like what she actually is. Brianna Stewart 6'4", Jonquil 6'6". Like, and she's been doing this all season, guard 1
Just
through
6 blocks.
5. It doesn't even matter who you are.
6 blocks. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's nuts. It's bananas. Moms are superhumans. So congrats to Minnesota on game 1. Game 2 is on Sunday. When we get back, the one, the only, John Keim on Commanders Ravens. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And coming up at 5:30, we're picking every single NFL game of the weekend. Of course, the marquee game of the weekend, Commanders and Ravens, is our top story. And, well, our next guest needs no further introduction.
Today's top story, from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not my beat.
It's been his beat for a long time. John Keim. Really, this is, not my beat. It's your beat, John. That's the name of the segment. You're the king of the beat, and it's always a pleasure to have you, my friend. Thanks for joining me on this Football Friday.
Well, always fun to talk football with you, Craig. You know that.
I appreciate that. And we will get to the ball in a moment. But you and your colleague at ESPN, Jamison Hensley, talked on your podcast, the John Keim Report, available wherever you get your podcast, about kind of the importance of this game in actually an area where we have a lot of listeners on the Team 980 in Maryland, that space between D.C. and Baltimore, along the BW Parkway, along 95, all the towns that dot it, that over the years were longtime strongholds of Washington football fandom. And as the Ravens were good and the Commanders in previous iterations of the organization went south, the color of the jerseys seemed to change in the classrooms and the grocery stores and everywhere. What was that conversation like with Jamison as you've seen that evolution from your side of it? And he's obviously watched it covering the Ravens for a long time.
Sure. And a lot of it, when they came here and they started to have success, it kind of matched up with when Dan Snyder took over. The organization was going down, wasn't doing enough. And then, they win Super Bowls and this team can't even get to the playoffs, or there's false hope after false hope after false hope. And then they get Lamar Jackson. So one thing Jamison had talked about too is they started to bleed in the fan base anyways. But when you have an electric player like Jackson, it expands your fan base, not just in the area, but nationally, because they never had that. That's where it was different. Like, as he said before, it was built on defense. Well, it's kind of hard to sell nationally about like, hey, come watch another 16-10 game, right? Whereas now you have one of the most exciting players in the league playing for you, and it's been that way for however many years. So it's solidified to me, without doing a lot of research into it, but it has to solidify a hold and bleed even deeper into what had been territory for Washington, whatever you want to call them, right? Commanders, football team, Redskins, whatever it is. They bled into their territory. And so when you're looking at this, not just this game, because the game isn't going to decide who's a fan and who isn't. It's going to be the rise of Jaden Daniels. And so the more he solidifies himself as a player, and there's no reason to think he's going to go anywhere but up, the more you're going to see like maybe more fighting for some of the fan attention in those areas, the fan tickets, suites, ad rev, whatever it is, jerseys. So I think there's more of a chance for this team to compete because if they're better, but also now you have a highly marketable player as well.
Right. Finally, you got the kids where they look at their friends in their Lamar Jackson jerseys and they're in their sad burgundy and gold. It's like, no, mine's not sad anymore. Mine's a 5 jersey with Daniels on the back, and my guy's awesome too. And like, for the lost generation, or almost at this point, 2 generations of Commanders fans, like that is, from the business side, is a huge deal. And I think so many people want to downplay the rivalry because it's like, oh, there's not a lot of history, but like that is very much a real element of the game this week and kind of the parallel storylines that we hope continue to be upwards for both franchises.
Well, I think it's probably as much a marketing rivalry as it is anything, because or just the competition for business dollars, right? And the stadiums aren't that far apart where you get that middle ground area where you're fighting, not literally, but you're fighting for those fans. And somebody like Daniels helps you get them. And it's a lot easier, God bless Taylor Heineke, that Heineke wasn't going to bleed into that unless you won, right?
Right.
But even then you knew that with Taylor, it was always, there's a ceiling, there's an absolute ceiling, and he's probably was about at it. Whereas for Daniels, he's played 5 games and he's already doing this well. Where can he get to? And he's the kind of guy that you need to take to re-energize a fan base. And so I think like that's where for the season, for selling tickets and all that, that's the key. Is it if they were 3-2, but they're winning, a little bit differently, and they didn't have Jaden Daniels, let's say they have a JJ McCarthy, but they're not quite as fun to watch offensively, whatever it is, like you're not going to see the excitement the same level. I just think it's the winning plus then you have this unbelievable dual threat rookie that can take you even further.
It's a great point. John Keim with us, of course, ESPN.com, the John Keim Report podcast as well, if you want to check that out. So let's go from like highfalutin narrative talk to very nitty gritty football talk. Your colleague at ESPN, Mina Kimes, was one of the people that I know highlighted this on her show and her preview. Like the 12 personnel, Baltimore Ravens get up there. They got 2 tight ends on the field. They run the mess out of the football. Washington likes to match 12 personnel with their nickel, so a lighter personnel grouping, and they've gotten away with it to an extent so far this year. What options exist for Joe Witt Jr. to ultimately defend what is the key matchup, how Washington defends the run, but specifically knowing how Baltimore wants to run the football?
Well, I think you also have to look at, you have some bigger safeties, and you have to, that's, the Jeremy Chins of the world, right? And so that's a factor. But when I was watching them last week against Cincinnati, for example, there are times where they did a good job creating a very light box for Derrick Henry. And then, so what's the key there? It's the D linemen have to get off their blocks. Linebacker said you have to play your box, as Daryl Tapp said. We asked him that today, and he's like, play your technique, trust the technique, get off the block, right? So you have to do those kind of things. Like, just because it's a light box doesn't mean you have to give up yards. And so I think that's part of it as well, because they'll use the fullback a ton. But you have to, like when I'm watching, when you see some guys getting stopped, it's because guys are filling aggressively and getting to the right hole. Like I saw a play where, to be honest, Craig, I saw one play where Derrick Henry ran it, and I'm like, did the safety really want to get over there? Because it didn't look like it. And you can't have those play. Like one thing I trust.
In fairness to that guy, I wouldn't want to tackle Derrick Henry either. Although that's not my job. I get to talk to you. I don't have to talk. I don't have to go tackle Derrick Henry.
I don't either. And but if it's your job, you got to get over there, right? And you got
probably want to do it.
And it's really hard. So I do think some of it. I think you also have to be cognizant. The thing with Henry too, the Bengals did a pretty good job against him. But then he snaps off a 51-yarder, and that's the play I'm talking about too. But he snaps off a 51-yarder, and like that. But all this good play before that went not for naught, but like that's what he just ruined it in one play. And so they did a good job to that point. And I think it's the same thing. Like, what do you want to take away? You still don't want explosive down the field. So I don't know that you're going to really I don't know how much are you going to change your personnel, because you have Zay Flowers who can hurt you down the field, right? And you want to make sure you have speed on the field to also combat Lamar when he runs. I mean, you go back to that. Remember the Chargers years ago where they used, I think it was a dime personnel all game. Well, you can't do that now because of Derrick Henry. But the point of it was to get a lot of speed on the field to contend when Lamar gets outside the pocket. I think in that area too, that's where Frankie Louvu, guys like that can help. Like he has such great closing speed that what does that look like also on the blitzes too? So I think that's where, personally, I'm going to try and pressure him up the middle, because I think that's where you can get him into some trouble. And, so I think with the Henry stuff, you've got to be able to get off if you got a one-on-one, you've got to get off your blocks.
Yeah, and finishing.
I know
is
that's
just so
basic,
important.
but I know that's basic.
But no, I mean, it does answer the question, right? Is like, we're going to rely on our defensive linemen to do what we ask them to do. We're not going to put 9 in the box and be like, if Lamar beats us as a thrower. Like, there are different ways you can go about that. And this team, the way, if we go all the way back to the beginning, if you will, the way this team is built from a roster construction standpoint, they are putting a lot on their defensive linemen. Those are their highest paid guys. And ultimately, like, there's some things you can do. I was talking with Logan on the phone about this earlier, like jam fronts, and you get like super technical real quick, which probably don't need to do here on the radio, but there's some ways in which you can jam it up for, no pun intended, jam it up for Baltimore, and then rely on the fact that you do have a guy in Jeremy Chin who's kind of that hybrid type of player. And
I also wonder, Craig, too, like we've seen the 3 defensive tackle alignment with the Johnny Newton, Payne, and Allen. Do you do a little bit more of that? And are there times where maybe you can go to more of a base look because you have Michael Walker he'll play in the red zone area? Do you do that at other parts of the field too? Just you cannot do that consistently, because the minute they see that, the thing that they do too is there's watching that offense, like they will do some of what Washington does as far as like how they try to fool you in the run game with the jet action, with, you'll see some of this, okay, you got a split backfield, you got two backs in the backfield, and you're going to fake to Derrick Henry going one way, you got a jet going another, and you got the quarterback going to the right. You know what I mean? Like, so they try to do some of that as well. So that's why you can't just go with a bigger lineup all the time. But I do wonder, would they go to some more of the Newton, Payne, Allen? But that's also probably a little bit more of a pass thing too with Newton, right? And so,
Right.
but is that something you would, because here's the other thing, like you do that, like I'll take Farrell in there trying to set an edge. And I think Armstrong's done a nice job. So I don't want to take those guys out very often. But I think where Newton helps you too, though, is if you can push the pocket a little bit, he can create some havoc, I believe, because he's just, I like what he offers. It's just that he's got to get more experience.
Right. And you do wonder about rush lane discipline for a rookie
Yeah, exactly,
when Lamar Jackson. So there are no perfect plans. That's why Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. He just it's hard enough Derrick Henry when you had Ryan Tannehill, all due respect, playing quarterback in Tennessee, but now with Lamar, it does seem like a cheat code. A couple other guys, and you just mentioned one that we need to understand where they're at this week, I think, in order to have this discussion too. Injury-wise, what do we know about Cleveland Ferrell? And then what do we know about Jordan McGee? Because he's a guy that looked really good in the preseason. He would be a rookie, be one heck of a welcome to the NFL if they decided to activate him and use him this week. But he's pretty fast, known for being able to be instinctual and make tackles. So if they go base, like they could, if they go him over Walker. But just from an availability standpoint, where are we on Ferrell and where are we on McGee coming off?
Cleveland, I think he did go. He was limited. I was watching him the other day. He looked pretty good doing the individual drills, but that's just individuals, right? It's just warm-up stuff. But I think they felt pretty good about him. Nothing official, but but as Dan Quinn told us today, both he and Noah Brown, for example, both had good weeks. That's a good sign because he's missed 3 games and with that knee injury. And so he's a big plus to get back. And he's not, obviously, I know he's got a couple of sacks, but that's not his thing. But playing the run is where you need him. And with McGee, I don't know who they'd bring up because they have the spot. They also have F.A. Obata. And so I don't know which one they would bring up, but I think with McGee, I would still look at him more as I would want to have him work more in practice before I'm putting him in there from scrimmage, but not on special teams. I put him on special teams in a heartbeat. I just think that's a lot of time to miss and then put him in there in a game right now when you're a rookie. But yes, they do like him. He does have the speed. I think Walker when he's been in there in the red zone stuff, he's done a nice job. And so I don't know that they'd have a problem putting him in there, but you're right. Like the speed is a intriguing aspect of it, but I would still look at Walker maybe as the guy that would be ahead in that area if they went to that sort of look. And you're only going to go to that look if you get the right look on offense, as you know.
Right. Yeah, the personnel matching is an enormous part of this game, and it's also a huge part when we flip the field. John Kimes with us, of course, ESPN and ESPN.com. You can read his work there. When Commanders have been at their best this year, they're able to do a whole bunch of stuff offensively, very seamlessly, getting in and out of different formations with the same personnel grouping, getting defenses caught on the field. And you see how, like at the beginning of the game last week, JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, like he is flying all over the field. By not even halftime, that dude was gassed trying to chase Jaden Daniels around. How do you think that they attack this Baltimore defense that has been incredibly stout against the run, but has struggled tremendously giving up big plays in the passing game?
They have. Now, the funny thing is, like watching even the Bengals game last week, there were a handful of throws. I'm like, that's actually not bad coverage. It's just a really good throw by Joe Burrow. And like, you're looking at like, is he really because like, you go through the all 22 and you're looking at the details of the play. I'm like, and you're watching, okay, he's short, 15-yard out to the left to this guy. And I'm watching like, he's really not that open, but it's NFL open and he's getting rid of the ball all the time. So if you're getting it out on time, you can complete those. He also had some deep ones that I felt were the result of some good concepts, right? So you can hurt them there of the two ways, that's where you can hurt them, right? So I also think in the run game, I think what looks to be really hard is just you're just not going to line up and just try and slam it on them. So you're going to have to be a little bit creative, which I think they've been. And the wrinkle here is defending Jaden Daniels as well. And I also like, if you don't, depends on, do you have Brian Robinson? We don't know yet. If not, you like those two running back looks. You got Eckler. Can you spread and try and run that way? Can you get the ball? Like they've been good in other games. Okay, it was hard to run against the Giants or whatever. So you're gonna throw a lot of the smoke routes, the screens, the receivers, which, as you know, serve as extended handoffs, right? So
Right.
Do you try and get it? Do you try and do things that way as well? But and it is a very good front. And Roquan Smith is really good. Kyle Hamilton plays a lot in the box. They're hard, even in the pass blocking, Craig. That's going to be a hard thing. Like they do a lot of different stuff. Like I don't know why they're struggling as much as they are against the pass. I've watched some of it, but not enough to just. So I think you still have to be sound in the pass game. Like it's not like it's just like it was last year here where guys are just running open all over the place because guys are colliding or not talking or whatever.
Right.
But
there is some of that. I think that's the thing that's interesting. Like the numbers, the down-to-down performance is better than the overall numbers because they have had a couple of coverage busts. They've busted at least 2 for touchdowns this year. Worthy had one in the opener, and I'm forgetting the other one. But then like Jamar Chase slips a tackle last week and runs away from everybody, and all of a sudden you're the 3rd worst team in the league in yards after catch because you missed a tackle and the tackle was on Jamar Chase, and 70 yards a yak later. That really hurts your stats. And so I think that's been the interesting thing is like put them in conflict and make them unsure, and they will miss a tackle. Right. They will have a bust. Sure. And so the question is for Cliff this week and his staff is like, how do you do that? I'm sure that's what they've spent their entire week on.
Great. Right. And there was the Bengals had a touchdown last week where they put the safety in stress and you ended up getting I think it was a deep post off of that. I think it was T. Higgins, I believe, if I remember right. But they did that because, just the coverage look, you put the safety in stress, you have this look, and he's coming, the tight end coming down another area. I don't remember the play exactly. I just remember the safety being in stress because you got 2 guys you have to worry about, and the tight end takes the focus and he's got the post. I don't know if you remember that play or not, but the point is they put him in stress, and so you can do that. And then also his ability to extend plays, like it's hard to prepare for that. And I know they faced Lamar Jackson. Well, these guys faced Jaden, so I get that. But it's still hard to defend them because it's just different. And I think that's where you have to be very good. And for Daniels is to continue to look upfield because every week there's been a chance to make a big play with his arm. He got it to McLaurin last week, and he had a couple last week, but there are a couple that you still could have gotten that he knows, they know, and it's part of the growth process. But it's where, like, if those are available, you can't miss those in this game. And that's what so you're going to have to be good in that way. But I think with the run, I think it's going to be sometimes a lot of, I guess, fooling the eyes, a lot of eye candy, right? And, you're going to get, like, I liked last week on the 4th down play, the jet action to Austin Eckler. Like, not many teams use a running back on a jet action and to hand it off to them. And so,
and if they hadn't, and that guy didn't have Austin Eckler's instincts, that is not a first down.
No,
that
for
cut
sure.
He makes is crazy.
For sure. And, you have like Zacchaeus, you can there are creative ways to use him as we've seen in the past. And so I think there's just different ways you're going to have to try and get to it. And then obviously incorporate Jaden, but it's not like and the thing, like, he doesn't even have to get 10 yards when he runs it. If you get 4 or 5, just let him know that he's keeping it, which they already know. So, I think, but yes, the pass game, there will be opportunities. Marlon Humphrey's very good. They will play zone. So you can just be patient. And, if they're playing too high, you're going to try to run the ball a little bit more. And so they will, they seem to play a lot of zone, right? And so I think that will open up some things, but it's about patience. And I think they've been able to be very patient. They've shown that. Last week was an anomaly with as many big plays as they had. They've been more patient than that, than allowing them to go on those long drives.
Yeah, for sure. They just have been able to find ways to win, which feels odd because, I've been covering this team for almost 10 years now. You've been covering it for 30 now. And the teams finding ways to win in Washington has not been a specialty on the gridiron or, frankly, in any other arena for most of that time. But this team has certainly figured that out, and it is a heck of a lot of fun to watch. John will have his 5 things that he thinks podcast out this weekend, which is always a great listen. It's always my go-to listen on the way to the game. Probably listen to it on my my Sunday morning run this week because I'm actually going to Baltimore.
See, I listened to you and Logan on the way to the game, so
there you go. It's just we're just return and serve. I was talking to my wife earlier, joking with her. I was like, John and I don't get to talk as much as we used to when I was on the beat every day, but I feel like we talk to each other through our podcast. So at least we're still in communication.
For sure.
So check out that this weekend. And, of course, John's work at ESPN.com. John, always great to have you on the radio, sir. Much appreciated. And I'll see you in a couple weeks back at Northwest Stadium. And I'll talk to you through my podcast until then.
There you go. Thanks, Craig. Always enjoy it.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.
It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up at 6 o'clock, we pick 6 players, not named Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson, that we think are going to be critically important to the Commanders-Ravens game on Sunday. Right now, though, Anthony, we pick everything else. We pick every single game that is not the Commanders-Ravens game. We'll get our picks in at the end of the show. Let's see. It always helps when I remember to make the graphic in the commercial break as opposed to during the show. I also should probably stop saying that out loud on the show and just let it happen. But I can't multitask, Anthony. My brain's broken, and it's Friday, and we're already halfway through the show.
I wish I could help.
Here, actually, you can help.
Okay.
What you can do is you can tell the people, because this is what we would be doing anyway, tell the people what our records are going into the week, and then we can add one to the win column for each of us because we both picked the Niners last night.
Yes, sir. So, Craig, you are 43 and 34. And
Okay.
I am 42 and hold on, that math ain't math.
Uh-oh.
Oh, actually it did. 35.
So you're one game behind me.
Yeah, we had the same record last week. We both went 8-6. And the week before that.
Well, hold on. Was it we both went 8-6, or was there like a Monday night something? Did that change?
Yeah, we were 7-6, and then the Monday night
Okay,
game,
we both
went
the
Chiefs.
same. Okay.
Yeah, we
All
both
right.
had the Chiefs.
Oh, it was 2 weeks ago that I think I got back. I got back to 500 and avoided like a truly embarrassing week on Monday night 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Yep.
Okay. Fair enough.
I appreciate you keeping me on my toes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm here for. That and to, host the entire radio show.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I've got a 1-point lead on Anthony. We're both doing okay. We'll see how we do on the competition Wednesday picks. We obviously picked those on Wednesday. That was at 5:30. This is 5:30, but this is Friday. It's time to go around the NFL. Oh, you had the music up high. You wanted that to hit for effect.
Yes,
I see
sir.
what you did there. I see
Yes,
what
sir.
you did there. Last night, we were both on the 49ers. They absolutely dump trucked the Seattle Seahawks. Put up a fight, but they threw the ball 52 times. Geno 30 of 52, 312, and a touchdown. Deebo Samuel really set the tone early with the long touchdown catch. 3 catches, 3 for 102, Anthony. How about that for a day for Deebo? That is 1 in the win column for us both. Okay, Jags and Bears, Anthony, in London. Hello, London. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. However, unlike most times that the Jacksonville Jaguars are at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they are the road team here, which I think is kind of a wacky bit. Jacksonville will be the home team at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I believe, the following week, or maybe they'll play that one at Wembley. I don't know, but they're doing the back-to-back London bit. The Bears, excuse me, are I don't trust them as much in London as I do the Jags. I also think the Jags kind of found something last week. I'm a little scared that the Bears might be a little overconfident because they beat a terrible Carolina Panthers team, but they beat them soundly. I think I'm going for the upset here. Chicago's only favored by 1. I'm going Jacksonville for the win.
Craig, I don't think there'll be a game this season that I pick the Jacksonville Jaguars again.
That
I
is
do
also
not
not a bad call, unless they play the Panthers.
Yes. I just don't trust Trevor Lawrence. Yes, he had a career high in passing yards last week, but again, some of the plays that he made, they were wide open. Like the screen to Tank Bigsby, the long touchdown pass to Brian Thomas. Like, yes, those are gonna pad your stats. I wasn't necessarily impressed by Trevor Lawrence. I am impressed by the Bears defense, though. They have been balling out, and also Caleb Williams seems to be finding something. Maybe it's because of DeAndre Swift and the fact that they finally started running the ball, but I like the Bears here. I'm going with the Bears.
All right. Well, yeah, they did. They found some ways to get the ball in Sweat's hands in space. That's the thing. Is ask him to read out a running play, get him in space. He knows how to run away from people. So they do a good job with their screen game. And Caleb's actually a pretty good screen thrower too. He's got a really quick release. He's not he's comfortable taking on pressure because he's so used to it. There's a lot of good stuff there that I think will happen for Chicago, but I don't trust it. I don't trust it.
Come on over. Nah,
No.
stay over there.
I've already been off that Bears. I was on the Bears bandwagon early, and they hurt me.
You were.
They hurt me right here in my soul. Cardinals, imagine what it's like being an actual Bears fan. Cardinals and Packers. What? They know. I'm not
Yeah.
telling them anything new.
The Bears.
The Bears. All right, Cardinals and Packers. Packers 5-point home favorites as Kyler Murray and company come to town off their win over the 49ers. I have Green Bay at home here. I just think they are the better football team. It really is not that complicated. Nice balmy 52 degrees at kickoff in Landover on Sunday. It's a little chilly for Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but also kind of not.
I think your explanation was perfect. Packers, better team. Cardinals got a big win last week, though. Shout out to them, but I think the Packers, more consistent. I can trust them.
Yeah, no, they're a team that I genuinely trust. Like, I feel good about picking the Packers pretty much every week, and I think that's probably why I pick them pretty much every week, and more weeks than not, I'm going to be right on that because they're a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony, I cannot believe this line. The Colts are 2.5-point dogs at Tennessee.
Yikes.
What happened to them boys? Anthony Richardson set to play, but no Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman iffy. So you get your quarterback back. Nobody actually, I think a lot of people would actually say that is not even a good thing because Joe Flacco's been so prolific. This Tennessee defense is good. Their offense is very much not. You're Mr. AFC South. Who you got?
The Colts are so banged up. No Jonathan Taylor again this week. Michael Pittman is questionable. AR is set to play. I don't really trust it that well. The Colts defensive line is all types of banged up. But still, Craig, I'm going with the Colts. I don't trust Will Levis. I do not trust that guy. He point shaved early in the season, lost those guys 2 games. I'm going with the Colts.
Just for the legal department, Anthony was being sarcastic. He's not actually accusing Will Levis of point shaving. It is just that his play is reminiscent of someone who was point shaving because it was bad. It was really, really bad. All right, so you're on your boys.
I'm going with the Colts.
Yeah, I am too. I ultimately just do not trust Will Levis in Tennessee. If there's a get-right game, Zaire, do you hear me? If there is a get-right game, it is this weekend. Get right. Let's go. All right, Texans and Patriots. 1, 2, 3.
Texans.
I'm kind of like I'm gonna say the following sentence. This line is only 6.5.
No
Weird.
Nico.
I know, no Nico. This is a huge loss. He's been the best receiver in the NFL.
That's his
arguably this
go-to
year.
guy, man.
Yeah, CJ is just that dude balls. That
Right.
dude is just so good. Credit to him. All right, Buccaneers and Saints. This one we can spend a little more time on. I think it's a pretty interesting matchup. One, Spencer Rattler is going to start at quarterback for New Orleans. Carr is out with, I think they ultimately said it was an oblique injury, but something core, back, etc. Core back side, so probably oblique. So Carr is out. Rattler is a guy that's used to playing behind a bad offensive line. Unfortunately for the Saints, they have a bad offensive line. The Buccaneers are going to get Kalijah Cansey back, so they get a little bit more pass rush on the interior. This is very much pushing me in the Buccaneers' direction. That's who I was leaning towards anyway. All of this news around the game pushes me farther in that direction, but it is in New Orleans. It's a really tough place to play. There's a chance Mike Evans gets ejected in the first quarter because Marshawn Lattimore is healthy, and those two play rock'em sock'em robots instead of football every time they match up.
Yep.
And who knows what else could happen because it's a wacky NFC South game, and that's the way that division goes.
Way to set the stage for that, Craig. I'm going with the Bucks. I think Todd Bowles against any rookie quarterback is a little scary. Jaden Daniels couldn't necessarily figure it out. I don't trust Spencer Rattler to figure it out. He hasn't had a lot of game action. First game against Todd Bowles. Could be scary. Might turn the ball over. Take a few sacks. I'm going with the Bucks.
Yeah, if I could pick defensive coordinators to not go against in my first career start as an NFL quarterback, like if Belichick is back in the league, he's number one because he was forever like undefeated against rookie quarterbacks. And the stats were abysmal. Like nobody could get 10 points on him if they were starting a rookie. He made their life that much hell. Todd Bowles of current guys, he's got to be top 5. Like that just is a nightmare, and especially because he's got good players. Cansey, Vita Vea, a couple other guys down there they're good. I don't know if Winfield's back yet, but like they got dudes, they got scheme, and they have an offense that can also put a lot of pressure. Like they'll go out and score, and now all of a sudden Rattler's got to drop back a ton. Like I don't know if that's how you want to spend your first career start. I think they want to probably run the ball quite a bit, try to be play action heavy, get back to kind of what that offense, Clint Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan tree is supposed to be. And I don't know this is the week you're going to be able to do it. Browns and Eagles. Eagles coming off the bye. They are, oh my God, 9.5-point favorites at home over the abysmal Cleveland Browns, Anthony.
Yep. The Eagles are a part of my competition Wednesday picks. I'm expecting these guys to go out there and destroy the Browns. They get Devontae Smith back. They get A.J. Brown back. Jalen Hurts, this is your chance. Turn the tide. Let's get something cooking. Let's get in a rhythm. I think this can be one of those get-right games for the Eagles. I like them over the Browns plus the points.
Yeah, I honestly, if I was going to pick this game against the spread, I would go that direction as well. It is remarkable how bad the Browns offense is. We spent a lot of time on it last week. So for the Eagles defense, even though I don't believe that they've magically fixed their problems, like you're not that scared. And I do think that they can take advantage of some of the weaknesses. But I think the other thing is, like, if you're telling me the way to beat the Browns offense or the Browns defense is to take some one-on-one shots at the outside, that is where A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts thrive. Like Jalen as a deep ball one-on-one passer, giving his guys chances, he's pretty good at that. And while he's not the same style of runner that like Jaden is, some of the stuff that Jaden was able to do last week, I think Jalen can also do. And so, yeah, Saquon like should have a pretty solid day. But I think specifically, like they're going to target Emerson, the Browns' number 2 corner, who has been really bad this year, time and time and time again. Jim Schwartz, and the thing is, Schwartz is going to leave him out there on an island because that's how he plays. Like that, as a defensive coordinator, he's a man coverage guy, and he's going to stick with it. So that is, Eagles, to say the least, is the pick. Okay, let's break here, Anthony, come back and pick the 4 o'clock window next. That's all the 1 o'clock games that are not Commanders-Ravens. Got some bangers in the 4 o'clock window and the primetime games. We break those down and pick them next on the Team 980. Week 6 in the NFL. Our picks and analysis of each and every game roll on here on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we left our heroes, it was the 1 o'clock window. It is now time for the 4 o'clock window. Anthony, it's us. Hey, Anthony, we're the heroes
Yes, we are.
of our own story. Chargers and Broncos. Chargers favored by 3 on the road at Denver. I actually would like to check out the offensive line injury status for the Chargers before I make a pick of this game, Anthony. So if you don't care about such things, you can go ahead.
Well, I will tell you, Justin Herbert is off the injury report. That just broke actually like seconds ago.
Okay.
But outside of it, this one's tough, man.
It looks like Alt and Slater are back, so that's good for LA.
Yeah, but I just feel like the Broncos defense the last couple of weeks, they've been very opportunistic when it's come to, taking the ball away, intercepting it. And it's been able to keep them in games. I'm torn right now. Justin Herbert's my guy. I like what Jim Harbaugh has over there in LA. I think I'm gonna go with the Chargers, Craig.
Yeah, I think
I'm gonna go with the Chargers.
I think I am too. I don't like the Broncos, so it's a little too easy for me to pick against them. Like, I don't like Sean Payton. I find him grating and annoying. Although I respect that he's a fantastic coach. Like, both those things are true. This is not me diminishing his ability as a football coach. But like, because I don't enjoy his occasional I don't know. I don't enjoy his commentary. When Sean Payton, Broncos football coach, forgets that he's not Sean Payton, Fox commentator anymore, that annoys the daylights out of me. So I always have to check myself in the interest of trying to be right, but I do think that the Chargers can win this. I think this game is going to be a lot slower paced, like just a knockout, drag-out game. That is how the Chargers make it. And so we'll see if they have enough. Obviously, Derwin James coming back off the suspension. So we'll see what the Chargers have in store. Steelers and Raiders. In theory, Anthony, this could be a 1-2-3 game, but Pittsburgh is only favored by 3 in this one as they go to Vegas.
Before that, who did you say last game?
Chargers.
Okay, making sure.
Go Chargers. Do you get that reference?
Sounds Arnold Schwarzenegger-like.
That is correct. When he was the governor of California.
Oh, yeah.
He'd had a Go Chargers thing that Chris Berman used to always use on NFL primetime. Did you watch Berman and TJ? Or is that like
yes,
where our...
Yes,
okay.
I watched Berman. Come on, man. The fastest 2 minutes. I wish
No. Not the fastest 3 minutes, fastest 2 minutes, whatever they give him on Monday Night Football. I'm talking full NFL primetime Sunday nights back in the day. With Tom Jackson.
I'm pretty sure I did. NFL primetime. I'm pretty sure I did.
Would.
I don't have a full
okay, so this is where we are the same generation, but we have a slight age gap, and this is where it shows up.
I think
the period that I lived on NFL primetime, you were still just a little too young to live on NFL primetime.
I mean, I probably watched it here and there, but High School Musical was probably on, or the Hannah Montana show, or I don't know.
That was the age that you were at. Yeah, no, for sure.
And it's Halloween now, so I definitely was watching the Halloween movies. So yeah,
you weren't rumbling, bumbling, stumbling.
Nah.
Yeah. You don't know any of the nicknames.
Or actually, I had curfew at 9 p.m. when I was a kid, correct?
That doesn't surprise me. This show was on. It was on like before the Sunday night game. That's when it was on.
Yeah, I probably.
So you flip over after like the Fox, whatever, and yeah, they did highlights like old school style, and they were awesome. Anyway, the Steelers. Now I just want to do all of the Chris Bermanisms. Maybe I'll make a list. Maybe Yates and I will have to compile a list. Anyway, the point is the Steelers and the Raiders are going to play a football game here in 2024. The Steelers are favored by 3 on the road against Aiden O'Connell. Yes, Aiden O'Connell's playing, and the Raiders. Russell Wilson will be active for this one, likely the number 2 quarterback, according to Mike Tomlin, but another start for Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm going with the Steelers here. I think I have them actually in my Wednesday picks as well.
One of us does. I don't remember who it is.
It might be you then.
Yeah, one of us definitely does.
Yeah, I'm going with the Steelers here. I just think they're the better overall football team. Justin Fields, I expect him to bounce back. And I'm not sure what to make of the whole George Pickens situation. It's a little
That guy's
weird.
that guy, like,
A little weird.
yeah. I think sometimes some organizations, and Mike Tomlin is 100% this way, they're so good with the culture stuff. They think they can take a talented guy who's a knucklehead, for lack of a better term. I wish I was more eloquent with, and I knew more about George Pickens' situation. So if that winds up being insensitive, I apologize. But I think back to like when they had Antonio Brown and a bunch of these other guys that, like, either in Brown's case, like Brown became a real problem. Like I think that Vontaze Burfict hit like really messed him up in a way that's sad. But he is a terrible person who has done terrible things. Or he's turned into a terrible person who did a lot of terrible things to a lot of people. Point is, like, you have these personalities that you think, like, oh, well, they might not be who we want our guys to be from a character standpoint, but we think that we can manage it. And sometimes you're really wrong about that. And what I appreciate about Peters and Quinn is, like, they kind of have a no knucklehead policy. They're not going to take on someone who doesn't fit the character of what they want, which doesn't necessarily mean it's all going to be all golden children. But like from a competitive standpoint, George Pickens, I don't think ever gets picked by Adam Peters in a draft. And that's kind of what I mean. Because like the stuff with Pickens, as far as I know, has been like on the field stuff and like football adjacent stuff. And it's just like, what are we doing? Yeah, that person never makes it on a Commander's roster. That's the way they're building it, and that's a good thing. But Tomlin also is right about a lot of stuff, and they've never been under 500 under him, so what do I know? They're going to win this game. Lions, Cowboys. Detroit favored by 3.5 on the road in Dallas. This one's going to be really interesting because I do think Detroit will try to run all over Dallas. It definitely could work, but Dallas is the type of team that can keep up as well because they are incredibly potent offensively. I'm going to take Detroit in this one, but I don't feel good about it.
I'm going to take Detroit as well. No Micah Parsons for the second week in a row.
That definitely hurts.
Yeah, that hurts a lot. And that's just a huge hit to the defensive line that already hasn't been that impressive. I think the Lions are going to play some smash mouth football.
That's their favorite kind. Falcons and Panthers. 1, 2, 3.
Falcons.
Bengals and Giants, the game NBC didn't want. They wanted Ravens and Commanders, but they got Bengals and Giants on Sunday night. Whoopsie daisy. If I had told you, Anthony, this summer that on the Week 6 Sunday Night Football game, the Bengals and Giants would be playing, and the Giants had the better record, what kind of drugs do you think I would have been on?
Some crazy drugs.
Good ones is the correct answer. Which, by good, we mean bad, kids. Yeah. Very, very, very bad. Don't do drugs. It's wild that the Bengals are 1-4. Offensively, like they're legitimately a top 5, certainly top 10 offense. Their defense has just been so bad, and they faced really tough opponents. They faced Baltimore, they faced Kansas City, they faced Washington. Like that is apparently a really tough schedule, which is something that I don't think a lot of people would have anticipated. I will take Cincinnati on the road in New York. Their offense is just absolutely rolling right now. Burrow's got 12 touchdowns and 2 picks, 1,300 yards.
Yeah, I can't pick Daniel Jones, man. I can't. I can't do it.
Bold take. I'll take Joe Burrow instead of Daniel
last
Jones.
Week, but I was thinking the same thing, and they won.
Yeah, they did. Bills and Jets. Can Buffalo bounce back? 3-0 start. Looked terrible in the 2 games since. Josh Allen, by the way, it came out today that everything was followed correctly with the concussion protocol last week. Of course, that's what the investigation says. But coming off that 9 for 30, Jets, tumultuous week, fired their head coach. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I think these guys are going to be playing for Robert Saleh.
Yeah,
like
it kind of feels that way, doesn't it?
I feel like you have to. I think a lot of guys in the locker room didn't want the guy to be fired. But I think the defense is definitely going to have some type of urgency that they're out there playing with. And this is in New York?
It's in New York, yeah.
Yeah, I like those guys to come out the gates firing on all cylinders.
They got the new play caller in Todd Downing, but I don't know that. Like, Aaron Rodgers is the OC. I don't know how much better their offense is going to be. I am definitely nervous about the Jets defense just playing with their hair on fire. Mm-hmm. New coach bounce. Because I just like the Bills better. don't like the Jets. I never like picking the Jets because they're the Jets. And when you're wrong about the Jets, you feel like an idiot because you're like, same old Jets. How am I the same old idiot who picked them? I'm just going to go with the team I think is better. I'm picking Buffalo. I just can't. I'm very scared I'm wrong on that one. But I'm going to take Buffalo.
I'm scared for you as well.
We'll see what happens.
Yep.
All right. We'll see how we did on Monday. Coming up next, Commanders, Ravens back in the spotlight. We'll pick that game coming up before the end of the show at 6:45. But we got 6 players we need to pick to have the biggest impact in the game. Our pick 6 at 6 is next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And if you're watching us on YouTube at the Team 980, you're seeing a scrambling Anthony Haney. Your headphone broke?
It just broke. What?
You only wear one side anyway.
I fear this is the good side.
Is the other side workable? Can you switch it?
Actually, this is the good side, but I'm still confused why this broke.
That I think is an easy. It just pops back in. Just get it lined up, and there you go.
Okay, I was
See,
a little concerned.
When mine falls off, it's like a whole pad that I got to put back on. Whoa, it's also hiding the fact that I got a real alpha situation going on in the back of my head right now. Your boy needs a haircut, bad, and the headphones are keeping the hair in place.
Let's
down.
move then.
It looks fine on camera straight on. Buddy, if I turn to the side, it'd be a bad situation.
Oh,
you know what's a good situation? Commanders-Ravens. It's an exciting football game where there will be lots of players who will have big impact. Our goal at this time is to pick 6, not named Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels, that are going to be the most impactful. We call it the Pick 6.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level and build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
All right, Anthony, you missed last week. I let Essig go first, but you're back, and I'm still going to let you go first.
You are a kind person, Craig.
I am kind. Also, I like to react off of what you do, so, just leaves things open. I like the rhythm.
Number 1.
Number 1, Mr. Hoffman, I'm going to go with a veteran on the offensive side of the ball, and that veteran is Zach Ertz.
Ooh,
I'm going Zach Ertz. I think he has an opportunity to have a good impact on the game. I think when you look back at the game against the Raiders where Brock Bowers was able to get off, and there was another game that had a tight end that was able to have a huge game. I'm expecting this veteran guy to just be able to, be there, be a security blanket for Jaden. I think last week he had a couple of drops that, very unlike Ertz.
He did have a couple, but he also had a couple big catches. Like he was involved. He was impactful.
So I think him, and also I think it just relieves some of the pressure on the receivers. They have Brandon Stevens, they have Marlon Humphreys. I think, and Kyle Hamilton. I think if there's a guy that you're going to attack in that secondary, it's going to be Marcus Williams. He hasn't played particularly well. I think he has one of the lower PFF grades among safeties. So I think if we're going to pick matchups, I think Zach Ertz has a really good chance to pick up some crucial first downs, extend some drives, and, be that reliable person that he's been for Jaden all season long.
I think it's a great pick. I think that it's going to be really important for them to run the football this weekend, obviously. And so your tight ends are going to get involved in that. But then can you make plays out of the heavy personnel groupings? And can you, I also think that getting some of Baltimore's coverage players on the field or off the field is huge. So those multiple tight end sets become really, really important. And Zach is the guy that can create some great matchups for you on that. I definitely think also the safety blanket stuff. Like you're probably going to face a few more third downs. You're probably going to face a couple more key situations. You're going to have to convert in the red zone. You can't kick field goals against this Baltimore team. You got to get touchdowns. And, we saw last week 2 plays in a row where he could have had touchdowns, or they're looking for Ertz in the red zone, and one's the incompletion, one's the interception. So he's obviously someone they look for down there. So I think Zach Ertz is pretty much always a great call, but I definitely understand why you put him first this week. All right, let's get technical. Number 2.
Number 2.
Deron Payne. I struggle between Allen and Payne, but I'm going to go Deron because I think he's the guy that they've moved around a little bit more, which kind of goes back to something. By the way, this show occasionally makes good points. In the offseason, we did a countdown of the most important commanders for the 2024 season. We put Deron Payne ahead of John Allen under the premise that in this, hey, let's move people around and try to create matchups version of the Washington defense, that Deron would have more flexibility than John. Correct. Good job, Craig. Nailed that one. And I think in this game, that matters a lot. Deron's ability to play on the edge, because he's so big and physical and has that defensive tackle body, but is so absurdly quick, and his hands and his feet are so good that he can play on the edge, I think becomes really important against a Baltimore team that is going to try to get on the edge in the running game. Yes, Derrick Henry is a load of a running back. but he plays like a speed back. They want to get him outside. They want to get him on the edge and then let him stiff arm little guys. And if Deron Payne can blow up some of those outside zone type of plays, some of those stretch plays, then that's great. If he can chin a guard that pulls on him, that is really helpful. And so Deron, and they can also be big without playing bigger personnel, if that makes sense. They can play John, Deron, and Johnny Newton together. They can use some different types of fronts, and Deron's versatility is the key to that. He can play anything from a nose tackle to a 1 technique, a 3 technique, a 5 technique. Like, you can play him as a like outside the tight end. You could do whatever you want with Deron Payne. And I think they're going to have to move him around. They're going to have to play some anticipation. And his versatility is enormous this weekend. He's played really well the last couple of weeks. I think Deron Payne, let's win more than rock, paper, scissors. Let's win a football game. Deron Payne, number 2.
I love the pick. I'm going to get to number 3, though.
Number 3.
Number 3, I'm going to go with Quan Martin, Craig. I'm going with Quan Martin. Baltimore has 2 standout star tight ends, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, who blossomed into something, last season, but he's really taking a huge step forward this season. I think he's going to be tasked with defending those guys to an extent. Yes, you have Louisville. Yes, you have Wagner, but I think Quan, he presents the versatility. He also has the size, the speed to hang with those guys. So I think he's going to show up. Also, I think this is probably a good opportunity for us to get one of those takeaways. If I had to put my money on us getting a takeaway, I think Quan would be the guy. He had an opportunity last week. And Joe Witt, he
perfectly jumped a route and then just football, meet chest plate, meet ground.
Exactly. So I think the opportunities are going to be there for us. I think it's more so us capitalizing on those things. And Joe Witt, he's just going to encourage those guys to, continue playing, and they'll come our way eventually. And I think he can possibly have one of those opportunities this weekend against one of those guys.
I think you can, and especially if you get pressure from guys like Payne and Allen inside, like Lamar will sail a couple of throws. As I said earlier in the show, Lamar is not inaccurate. He's streaky accurate. So he'll go through phases where he is lights out, and you're like, what? There is nothing we can do with this guy. Like, this is a nightmare. There's also times where he won't hit anybody. And so he'll still make plays. He'll find a big one. Like, you can never turn it off. Be like, he's having a rough time. We're easy. No, it's never easy against Lamar Jackson, which is part of what makes him so good, is even when he's off, he's still so dangerous because of what he can do with his legs. And, he's always one play away from turning it back around. But the question I would have is, when he has an inaccurate streak and he throws a ball behind someone, over someone's head, whatever, can you take advantage and pick it? And you also mentioned earlier in the show, Lamar's got a little bit of a propensity to fumble the football. Quan's a guy that can definitely scoop or come in with a big hit late and jar a ball loose. So I think Quan Martin is a great pick. I will tell you now, I have my eyes on one of the other safeties for number 4. The back half of our pick 6 is next, and I'll tell you which safety. But first, let's get an update on the latest in the world of women's sports, presented by Wawa. Gotta have a Wawa. Wrapping up the pick 6 here on the Hoffman Show. Coming up in 12 minutes, how to stop Lamar Jackson through the eyes of Logan Paulson. Little Take Command Friday preview for you here on the Team 980. But let's pick it up right where we left off. Anthony said Quan Martin was his second player, our number 3 overall in our pick 6. I told you the other safety is going to be next. Which one? Percy Butler, Jeremy Chin? Anthony?
Number 4.
Number 4 is Jeremy Chin. Washington's personnel choices are going to be very interesting to me in this game. I think they have a couple of options when Baltimore has 2 tight ends on the field or Patrick Ricard, their 300-pound fullback. You could go base personnel. You could have Michael Walker join, or if Jordan McGee is active, McGee come up and play 3 linebackers on the field. Try to get Frankie Louvu in space. Let those other 2 in Wagner and Walker probably just eat blocks. Hopefully Frankie can run around them and make a bunch of tackles on Derrick Henry. That's one way you can play it. But the way the Commanders have matched heavier personnel groupings this year, specifically 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, which Baltimore plays a lot, is with their nickel personnel, meaning that you have 5 defensive backs on the field. Now, you could go big nickel, in which case Jeremy Chin probably plays down in that nickel kind of spot. Or you could have Noah Benogany down there, and either way, you're bringing Jeremy Chin down in the box, and that is why he is number 4. I do think Percy Butler is really important in this game. So, Anthony, are you going to pick Percy Butler? We can have all 3 safeties here.
No, I wasn't going to pick Percy.
Okay.
Percy.
I very easily could pick Percy because I think he's the guy that can match up with Isaiah Likely. I think he's the guy that can match up with Justice Hill as a coverage player, and those 2 responsibilities are really important. I think Chin can also match up with Likely. He's very, very big. He runs well enough. But his size in the box solves, in theory, the problem that Washington has, which is you want speed and size on the field together. And Chin is big enough and has enough skill in terms of taking on blocks, enough experience that he can take on a pulling guard or knows how to navigate a 300-pound fullback in a way that most safeties in this league can't. He is a hybrid type of player. And you need speed on the field because Lamar's really fast and Derrick Henry's really fast and Justice Hill is really fast and they use a lot of misdirection, and you have to be able to run with Baltimore. And so Chin's ability to play kind of 2 positions and fill 2 roles, I think, is really important. It's why also, by the way, this team brought him in. It's why they drafted Dominique Hampton. It's why a guy like Tyler Owens is a future prospect for them. Those younger guys aren't ready to do this yet, but this has always been an important part of DQ's defense. It's how they want to play, and it puts a lot of pressure on the guy who gets stuck with that hybrid responsibility. Jeremy Chin, you have the hybrid responsibility. I think there's some other guys that are interesting to talk about in terms of potentially they want to get funky with some personnel, guys like Dante Fowler and things they can do with him. But I think Chin is the primary guy here when you talk about stopping the run. Obviously, it starts with shedding blocks and getting off of guys and Allen and Payne doing their thing. But Chin is kind of the linchpin in the run defense plan. And so Jeremy Chin, number 4 for me/us here in our pick 6.
I love the pick of Jeremy Chin. I think early in the season, though, what we're asking him to do this game in terms of come up, fill the lanes, actually make the tackles.
There's no coming up, bro. He's going to be in the box.
He's already going to be there. So it's more so just, I guess,
I say that, but then again, Joe Witt's played more 2 high coverage structure, so he might have to fly down, in which case, like Payne and Allen and those guys squeezing down and, Frankie making sure that he's not freelancing too much. Like, you freelance enough to go make some plays. If you can shoot a gap, but you got to squeeze so Chin doesn't have to come down and fill an 8-yard gap. So some of those problems that crept up earlier in the year, like they've done a better job. Bro, if you don't do that against Baltimore, Henry's going in. However, how many yards are between the line of scrimmage and the end zone? That's how many yards Derrick Henry's going to run for. That's just how it is.
Number 5.
Number 5, I was torn on who I really wanted to go with. Number 5. I'll ask for some help. Craig, should I go O-line or wide receiver?
Ooh. Why don't you go wide receiver? Because I was thinking about O-line, so I'll hit O-line next. That solidifies my decision.
Okay. I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin. I'm not sure did we pick him last week? Or did you guys pick him last week?
I do believe we did. And turns out that was a good pick.
Or did you guys pick Diami last week?
We picked both last week.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm picking one of them. I think we have a legitimate shot of explosive plays down the field, whether it's going to be Terry, whether it's going to be Diami.
Noah Brown's
Brown
back.
He might be back. You got
He is
Luke.
back. That just came through, actually. He's got
Okay.
no injury designation going into the weekend. So
there it is. So we got some
Praise be.
chance. Yeah, we got some chances for some explosive plays down the field. Baltimore's defense has been susceptible to it. I just want Terry to be more consistent as far as catching the ball. Again, he had a perfectly layered pass from Jaden, to him in the back of the end zone that he dropped. It hit both his hands. But if you're going to be the premier receiver that we all are expecting you to be, you got to make those catches. And I think this is just a good opportunity for you to go out there and have a big game. Everybody's been making excuses for why Terry hasn't done this, and it'd be because of the quarterback play. Well, you have a quarterback. Let's execute. Let's go out there. Let's get this dub, man. We're going to need these explosive plays. We're going to need them. We're going to need them, man.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's such a great point with Terry because I think sometimes you can watch the film and be like, man, Terry could have a touchdown there. Terry could have a touchdown there. There's some opportunities that are open for Jaden and scramble drills. And like, obviously, you hit him on the big one. It's not like he's not finding Terry. Terry's being found more this year than he ever has in his career, at least since like his rookie season, it feels like. But there are even more opportunities. But you also got to make do with the ones that you got, and that was a drop. The fade ball in the third quarter last week, that was a hell of a throw. One of the best throws Jaden made all day. Non-scrambling, throw the ball 56 yards in the air edition. So I think that's a great call. I think Noah's interesting. I think Luke's really interesting. Yep. Jaden has shown a propensity to throw Luke on some timing routes where he has a really high level of trust, and you have to do that. I mean, watching the tape of how Burrow beat up this defense, like there are some times where it's just like, I got T. Higgins, I know he's going to win. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plant, throw, bang, deep out. T. Higgins wins there. And some of those routes have gone to Luke McCaffrey this year. So I think Luke is a really critical piece, potentially picks up, he might have 3 catches for, 18 yards, but if all of them are 6-yard gains on 3rd and 4, then like, hey man, that dude's doing his job. Plus what he does in the run game. Obviously we saw on the B-Rob touchdown last week how effective he can be. Noah's interesting. Like I like all these guys. I don't, none of them are going to be all pros except for maybe Terry, but all of them are good NFL football players who understand the role. And Diami, by the way, we should put him down just because he was so good on the show yesterday. If you missed that interview off the top of the show, definitely worth going to checking out. Find some time this weekend. Carve out 10 minutes for our chat with Diami Brown, Commanders receiver, here on the Hoffman Show. Okay, that means I will fulfill my promise then, Anthony. And
number 6.
I will go offensive line with Tyler Biadasz. Dan Quinn was asked, or Cliff, somebody was asked about him earlier this week, and about that veteran relationship. And it's like, yeah, no, he's been great. And, we trust him with the protections, all this kind of stuff. But I think just generally the offensive line is really important this week against a Baltimore run defense that has been sensational. Washington needs to be able to run the football some. You're going to get stuffed some. That's just the way it is. But you want proof points that getting stuffed occasionally doesn't ruin your run game. Look at the Washington defense. They're one of the worst in the league, yards per carry. They also were 3rd highest in the league in stuff rate. So you can have it both ways. You just got to keep going back to the well. Find the runs that work. And so the communication between not only Biadasz and Jaden to navigate a noisy crowd and all that kind of stuff are really important, but Biadasz being able to go back to the huddle, and really this is all of them, to go back to, not the huddle, the sideline and be like, hey, I think we can hit this. I'm seeing this. Like, being able to both play and take some notes at the same time, I think could be really critical for some in-game adjustments. Let's find the runs that work. It might be some of the straight-ahead stuff. It might be some of the hey, we're pulling here. We're doing this misdirection. But Biadasz's ability this year to get out in space, I think, has really, really been key for this team. And, they've got to continue to find ways to do that on Sunday. Does that hit the main points you had for the offensive line, Anthony?
Yeah, and one thing I would just add, just being wary of where Kyle Hamilton is. I want to say he had 5 or 6 sacks last season. He plays close to the line, so it's more so just being wary of where he is, sliding the protection to where he is so that he isn't coming scotch-free and, getting a strip sack. He had a couple of those last year. I haven't seen it much this year, but I know he's a threat for it.
Yeah, no, that's a great call. Being able to locate, find, because that's the thing. It's like so many of these systems, and Mike McDonald was the best at this, and obviously Zach Orr's not on his level yet, but he's trying. Some of their zone pressure stuff where they drop certain guys out and bring other guys. Like it's real easy if you can't figure out who's coming to call the wrong protection. You slide left. They fake left and everybody's coming from the right. Now Jaden's got to make magic happen. And luckily for them this year, the few times that has happened, Jaden's made a lot of magic, but you don't want to live like that. You want to be able to get the right number of people in the protection and get them assigned to the right places. And Biotish can be super helpful against what is one of the trickier defenses that he's faced so far this year. And obviously their one loss, like Tampa got a ton of pressure. So how do they handle that? Biotish at the center, quite literally, of it all. All right, that's our pick six. 6 players. We'll see how they did on Monday at 6 o'clock as we break down the game. Of course, don't forget, Take Command post-game show will be Sunday night, road game timing. So 7:30 is our planned start time on YouTube at the Team 980. But sometime before 8:30 or so, that podcast will be in your audio feed. But for preview purposes, you don't have to go anywhere to get a little bit of Logan Paulson in your life. Logan and I's preview of how the Commanders can stop Lamar Jackson next. Wrapping up final half hour of the week on the Team 980. It's a Football Friday here on the Hoffman Show. Team 980 always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And coming up at 6:45, we will pick Commanders and Ravens. But one last knowledge bomb before we do that. From Take Command, Logan Paulson and I talking about how the Commanders defense can begin to try to think about stopping Lamar Jackson. Why is Lamar so dangerous? What about him is so unique? And what if you're Joe Witt Jr., what are you trying to shut down and kind of like force them into the box you want and then pray that Lamar doesn't blow up that box?
Yeah, so I think this is going to sound insane, but when you watch the film, specifically the Cincinnati film, I think the one thing that if I'm Joe Witt, that I take away from that game is I'm really, 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 really trying to stop the run. Like that is the first and foremost thing with this team. And and people hear that and they say, oh, well, Lamar's a good passer. Yeah, I know he's a good passer, but they are an excellent team at running the football. So basically they're so efficient at running the football, it basically replaces all of their like quick game. There's no underneath passing attack really here. It's just like I can run zone read, I can run GT, I can do like a little jet sweep to Justice Hill. Like I can do whatever any run you think of, like we've got it in. I can put Patrick Ricard in the dot. We can have 2 tight ends in and we can dent your face mask. Like they do a lot of stuff, put on a lot of different hats. And I think, I was talking to Dan Quinn yesterday on the Game Plan show where he kind of previews the matchup the morning of the game. And he was saying, that's one of the reasons training camp is so important. I know everyone wants to get rid of training camp, but it allows us to kind of talk through 21 runs, 22 runs, sub runs, zone read, RPO, all that stuff. And so we've touched on all this stuff because of training camp, but we need to make sure we know it really well because they do it all, right? And I think that's the thing that is really overwhelming about the rushing attack is it's so diverse. But I think when you look at what Cincinnati did, take something from that book. They were basically like, how many people can we put in the box and feel good covering? Like, let's do that. More people. You from the stands. Let's come in here, stand near the line of scrimmage, and we're going to blitz. We're going to line stunt. We're going to make it hard for you to kind of get consistent looks because the other thing about it is their offensive line is starting to kind of figure it out. I think that's another reason their offense is playing better. Daniel Falele, that big guard from Minnesota, he played tackle. He's 6'8", he's 400 pounds. Like him on a double team with Tyler Lindenbaum is scary. Tyler Lindenbaum is one of the best kind of move centers in the NFL. Ronnie Stanley's starting to play like Ronnie Stanley again. They've got a lot of kind of interesting things. They moved, what's his name, Makari, their backup tackle, who is kind of their jack of all trades. He's starting at guard now for them. And the production's just been so much better with him in there. Rosengartner, the guy from Washington. UW, who we all like coming out, starting to play good football for them. So it's all kind of happening for them up front. And I'm just basically like, put more people in there, put more bodies in there, because the 2 guys on the right side are good athletes, Falele and Rosengartner, but they do make mistakes. They gave up a safety to Cincinnati last week on a mental mistake between the 2 of them. So I look at that and I say, that's got to be priority number 1. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. But that's priority number 1. People say, why? Why do you want to do that? Lamar diced them up in the second half of that game. I get it. But the one thing about Lamar that you see when you're watching the film is it's not like this super great rhythm and timing, and we can just dink and dunk and dissect you down the field. He finds big plays, explosive plays, but it takes a lot. He's got to scramble around. He's got to look down the field. Guys get open late. I would prefer that because there's more variability there than Derrick Henry running for 6 yards a pop. Like that's just my thought. I don't 100%. Want them. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's where I get to is you got to stop Lamar running the football because he's such a driver of that, and hope that you can kind of mathematically sway your option in this more high leverage passing attack that they have.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. And, hey, if Lamar's going to have 2 weeks in a row where he finds 7 big plays, like, okay, he's Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP. It's not off the table. But I'd rather that than set Hutt, turn around, hand the ball to Derrick Henry. Set Hutt, turn around the other way, hand the ball to Derrick Henry, this time with Patrick Ricard in front of him, a 300 whatever pound fullback smashing people's face in. Okay, now fake a handoff to Henry and Lamar's on the edge and he's got Ronnie Stanley out in front of him. Like, it is a nightmare if you're going to do that stuff. And so I would much rather that. Plus, I think there are opportunities for turnovers with Lamar as a passer. You have to be super disciplined. He does not take sacks. It is crazy, the sack to pressure percentage. He has been pressured. I think it's, let's see, where is it?
50 times.
50, is it
52?
51 pressures.
Yeah.
He's taken 5 sacks. 51 pressures, taken 5 sacks. So you have to be really disciplined. But if you can get him to throw, he makes bad throws, like from the pocket. Has he grown, and does he see the field way better than younger Lamar? Yes. Was some of that always overstated because of how athletic he is, and people just wanted to look at that and assume he couldn't play from the pocket? Of course. But to pretend like he is I don't know, Tom Brady, who can also run, is also a fallacy. Like, that's not who he is.
Right.
And so you watch some of these bad throws, and it's like, well, dang, if you can pick off 1 or 2 of those, like, it changes the entire complex of the game, the entire framework of the game. And so I think that you have to be on your toes for opportunities when you rush him and then force throws. And I think the other thing that really stood out in a couple of these games, specifically like the one that stood out as different, was the Buffalo game. They got no pressure on him. And if you let him sit back there with no pressure, he will be Tom Brady from the pocket. He's an NFL quarterback. But if you can get some push, even if you don't if you don't hit him, you don't sack him, whatever, but you just make his feet uncomfortable, you make him, change the arm angle in a way that he doesn't want, make him, kind of feel uncomfortable, that's when he'll throw high. And if he can throw over a receiver right into the arms of Aquan Martin, like, sick, there's your pick. Get 2 of those, and you've got yourself a great chance to win the football game.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the Cowboys game, when you look at the Bills game, kind of their 2 most physically dominant wins, like, he threw for under 200 yards, and I think that's where they want to live. Like if I'm the coach, I'm saying, like, this is who he can be because of. And again, it's not like he's not playing when they're running the football. He's the engine that drives their rushing attack because it adds so much flexibility and diversity. Like, obviously we talked about, Picard and Henry and being physical and being big. And there's some absolutely disgusting plays of Picard just killing a safety, and then Derrick Henry stiff arming some guy, and you're just like, they don't play football like this anymore, and teams aren't built to stop this anymore. But then in the next play is a fake handoff to Derrick Henry, a fake reverse to Justice Hill. We're running GD to the offensive right, and Lamar, I don't know what he ran, but he looks like he's running a 4.2 out there and runs for 15 yards for a first down. And you're just like, how do we match this? And so when you watch him versus Cincinnati, when you watch him when he's a little bit stressed out, because they were down going into the 4th quarter there, and he had to do some pretty miraculous stuff to get them back in it.
And credit to him, he did.
He did it. Like, and so we're saying, like, he is good at football. He's an excellent football player. He can throw, he can run, he can do it all. But when I watch him, I see a guy who's an offense that's much more efficient when they're efficient running the football. When he's got to get back there and throw, it's not on time. It's not. I don't think he does. This is not to say he doesn't see it well. It's just kind of a little bit out of rhythm, and a little bit of it.
The receivers aren't great.
That's, yeah, and I was just about to say that.
Good. Bateman, by the way, who's banged up and might not even play in this game. Like, he's okay.
Yeah, so I was just about to say that. Like, and this is a really kind of fundamental, like, nerdy football thing, is their best players are the tight ends. Charlie Kolar, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, right? Like, those are the guys. Zay Flowers is a good piece. What they do a good job of with the run game is stretching you horizontally. When you watch them, they have a really, really hard time because they don't have that dog wide receiver of stretching you vertically. So everything gets a little bit tight near the line of scrimmage, especially if you can't run the football. All of a sudden, the windows get small. The timing's a little bit weird. You got to hold the ball a little bit longer because you're waiting for Isaiah Likely to run this deep crosser or attack the seam, and it's different. And so versus the Bills, I thought they did a good job of using Zay Flowers, not as an underneath kind of screen option guy, but kind of get the top off the defense a little bit, and it created more space underneath. But they don't do that all the time. And so I prefer, because the passing attack is not, it's good, but it's not the Cincinnati Bengals. Take away the run, force them to throw. It's still hard. He's still an MVP caliber player.
It's the best option, even if you would never, like, if you could pick the Browns pass game to play against, you pick that 11 times out of 5. Like, we understand what we're saying here. It's just like, you got to pick something, and that's what you'd pick.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what you get to, because again, it's not always on time, it's not always on rhythm, it's not always the most accurate, but can he still make explosive plays? Yeah, like I mean, I've watched that play. The play where he stiff arms Sam Hubbard twice and delivers it to Isaiah Likely is maybe the best football play I've ever seen. He's like the one player in the NFL currently that can make that play. Yeah, so obviously, like, he's going to get his, like, no matter what you do. But in terms of just easier, relatively, in both things being hard comparatively, that's the one you're choosing.
Yeah. Two more things real quick that I wanted to hit on. One is that they are really conservative on first down, because when you can rush for 6 yards a carry, which is, by the way, what they're averaging as a team this year, 6.1 yards a carry
crazy is that?
through 5 games is nuts. So they just run the ball a lot, but they also play action off. Like, first down is going to be a run or a play action, which also kind of sucks, because even if they run it 8 times, that play action could be the one that kills you.
Right.
So good luck guarding that. But like, it does leave them into some second and longs, and then ultimately some third and longs. The thing I think is interesting about that is they are ridiculously aggressive on third down.
Yeah.
Like, they will sit, because Lamar is so good at not taking sacks, and because he has such a knack for generating big plays, especially on the second play, if you will, when the play gets extended. They'll run guys vertical on third down, and it's almost like, you know, when you watch a quarterback who's a young guy who doesn't know what he's doing, except for this time, it's like Lamar knows exactly what he's doing. It's just that the receivers aren't going to get open in the first concept. So it's like, wait, okay, it's been 3 seconds. Let me go extend the play and run around. And he's the best at it in the whole league. If there's a ton of space, he'll run. If not, he will, you know, run around and then find someone late in the down. And he can throw any arm angle. He'll throw it as he's, you know, leaping out of bounds back across his body and find a completion. But they will create that space on third down vertically, which, again, not only you have to cover that because he will make those throws down the field, but if that pulls your coverage players away from the line of scrimmage, that's where he gets a ton of huge scrambles on third down. So I think that's like, third and long is not a safe space against the Baltimore Ravens. And that is, that's a terrifying proposition. All right, it's Friday. We're wrapping up here on the Hoffman Show. We have a gigantic game on Sunday. If you missed any of our shows this week, of course, you got the whole weekend to catch up on the podcast. Highly recommend John Kime today, 5 o'clock. Obviously, Take Command's preview is really, really good this week. I actually, I say obviously, that was kind of arrogant. I think we do a good job, but I also thought that this particular week it was one of our better shows on the preview edition. I really was happy with the show this week, so I would love for you guys to check that out. And if you're not subscribed to Take Command, subscribe. And then you can get all the Take Command shows. Logan and I are going to do the post-game show together, even though it's a road game. The benefit of the game being in Baltimore is that Logan's going to get home at a reasonable time. So by the time we'd have someone else do it, Logan's just going to be in front of his, ready to go anyway, with his microphone and his camera. So 7:30, we might be a little late depending on some stuff. I'm going to the Spirit game on Sunday because I'm a season ticket holder and I would like to be able to use my season ticket. So I'm going to watch the Commanders Ravens game. I'm going to go to Audi Field and I'm going to come home and then we're going to do a podcast. So whenever I get home or whenever Logan gets home, we're going to do the Take Command post-game show, and then it will be in your audio feeds immediately after. But if you want to join us live on YouTube at the Team 980 or at Craig Hoffman, would love to see you there. Okay, that's the housekeeping, Anthony. Time to pick the game. Commanders, Ravens, who you got?
See, early in the week, I definitely I had the Ravens. That's what I told JP. Shootout, I think the Ravens edges out by 3 after a long 3-4 days sitting on it.
Your optimism is out of control.
And now, Craig, I'm going to let you know that I have chosen to stick with my original pick. I'm going Ravens. I'm going Ravens. 31-28. Shootout. Baltimore wins.
31-28. That is a big, big, big number. I actually have a funny feeling that I got a weird feeling about it in that I think Washington could definitely win. I'm not going to be gutsy enough to pick it, and I'm just going to be a gigantic wuss here on the air because I think that the most likely outcome is Baltimore wins. I think that there could be a blowout either way, to be honest. I could see how it happens. I think the most likely outcome, though, is a Baltimore close win. I think that they can get 1 or 2 stops in the red zone, whatever it is. Lamar makes some crazy play. They're at home. They've been in these kinds of games before. It's new for almost everybody at Washington. And I think that they can compete, though, and that is good. Baltimore's more talented. They've got, if we did a draft of Baltimore and Washington players, more Baltimore players would go in the top half. Mm-hmm. It'd be, depending on the length of the contracts, the number 1 pick would be pretty interesting right now between the 2 quarterbacks. But that is, one has been doing it for 5+ years and is 2-time MVP, and the other's been doing it for 5 games. So from a predictive standpoint, it seems like Baltimore is going to win the game. I'm going to go Baltimore 27-24, which I also realize is a lot lower score than a lot of people are predicting. I tend to think these defenses are going to try to really crank it up. I also think that this game could be short on possessions, some longer sustained drives by both teams. And the entire public, the entire world is going to be on the over. So, of course, it'll hit the under because that's how Vegas, air conditions desert. So I'll go 27-24 Baltimore. I definitely am open to the fact that I could be very, very wrong in any number of directions.
I'm praying I am, Craig.
I would love nothing more than to be wrong. I don't care about being right. And I do care, but I care more about the team winning and then the fun that would come with that than being right about when I pick the Commanders. So, Baltimore 27-24. That's my pick. Read it and weep. It doesn't matter. It has no effect on the game.
Nope.
Not at all. All right. Real things before we leave?
Yes, sir.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
And we'll close out with some Commanders because the Commanders social team asked their players today if they believe in the 5-second rule.
Do you believe in the 5-second rule?
No.
That's crazy. Don't even think about that.
I'm not eating anything off the ground.
Thank you.
Yes. Simple. Yes. The God made dirt don't hurt. 5 seconds.
Wow.
5-second rule. Like if you leave it on the ground for 5 seconds and pick it up and eat it, you're disgusting. You do it? Do you believe it? And you go, that's crazy. You just answered your own question. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
With food? No.
It depends what drops on the ground. If it's like a jelly bean, something with a hard, like, outside case, then it'll be good.
A jelly bean?
Like something like that. Like if you drop a pizza on the ground, it's over.
Okay. But
if you drop like
a peppermint, you gonna pick it up and put it in your mouth?
Nah, because it's sticky. So it's gonna pick up the
It's
debris.
not sticky to touch your mouth.
Like a jelly bean and drop on the ground, and then you can pick that joint up fast.
See, I think there's a little bit of science here. If I drop something on my kitchen floor that I just cleaned, maybe. But the answer is mostly no, Anthony. What do you think?
I'm no too. I'm not eating anything.
Hard
off
no?
the ground.
Yeah, I think
Depending.
that's probably the simplest answer. Maryland football is next, and I'm sure they're thrilled to follow us.
You can